Hello, Space Cadets, and welcome to Mueller Planetarium Astronomy at Home. This is Zach Thompson, Planetarium Coordinator at the University of Nebraska State Museum at Morrill Hall in Lincoln, Nebraska, wishing you all clear skies. Today we're going to explore everybody's favorite former planet, Pluto. We'll be using NASA's Eyes on the Solar System. Look to the right of your screen for the web address eyes.nasa.gov, being held up by our Pluto and Charon buddies. You can download the software for free at home on your computer, and you can follow along with us. For a long time, and for many of us, we still remember, Pluto was the 9th planet in our solar system. It was discovered in 1930 by American astronomer Clyde Tombaugh. We went from 8 to 9 planets. It was this mysterious, enigmatic world, Pluto was, because it was beyond Neptune, so far away, actually 3.5 billion miles away. It was also very small, only about 1,500 miles wide. That's smaller than the United States. We also didn't have great pictures of this world. It was very fuzzy, very pixelated. It really grabbed your imagination. What is it like way out there in the deep freeze of the solar system? And all of a sudden, things changed in 2006. Pluto was no longer the 9th planet. It became a dwarf planet. The International Astronomical Union changed how we classify Pluto. And one of the reasons that it got changed was the discovery in the early 2000s of this distant object, Eris. Beyond Pluto, Eris was found, and it was thought at first that it was even larger than Pluto. And if that was the case, shouldn't this then become a 10th planet? We also thought, what if we keep finding objects beyond Pluto that are also bigger than it? Are those also planets? Because we're still calling Pluto a planet. If we did that, suddenly we might have dozens, maybe even hundreds of planets. And it just didn't really jive well with the astronomical community. And so we really tried to analyze, well, what is a planet? What's our definition of a planet? And so the International Astronomical Union came up with 3 criteria for an object to meet in order to become a planet. The first of all is that the object must be round. Gravity must make it pretty much round. The object must also orbit the sun. Well, Pluto does both of those just fine. However, it's the 3rd criteria. An object, in order to be a planet, must be big enough to clear a path in its orbit. There shouldn't be any clutter, any debris in the orbits where these other planets are. And indeed, that's the case of the planets from Mercury up there through Neptune. There's really nothing there. It's pretty clean. But with Pluto, that's not the case. It's not big enough to clear its neighborhood. Something else that really struck us as odd about Pluto, when it was still considered a planet, was the way it orbited the sun. All the planets, they're close to circular orbits. Not perfectly circular, but they're close. Not Pluto, though. You see here how we look at the solar system edge on. It's a flat disk, like a pancake. All the planets are on or near that flat plane. And suddenly, boom, there's Pluto, doing its own crazy thing. Sometimes it's above or below the plane. What's going on? In fact, sometimes in Pluto's orbit, it comes in closer to the sun than Neptune. That is peculiar. So another one of the reasons why we call it a dwarf planet, an object that's beyond Neptune in an area called the Kuiper Belt. All dwarf objects are not way out there past Neptune. We even have a couple of dwarf planets in the asteroid belt. Beyond Neptune, we call this area the Kuiper Belt, and Pluto is one of the largest objects in there. So even though we don't call it a planet, there's no reason to be sad, no reason to be discouraged. Because it's every bit as incredible as your imagination would have led you to think not so long ago. In 2006, we launched the New Horizons spacecraft, and it was on a mission to get close to Pluto for the first time ever, take pictures of it, fly by, really give us the first good look at it. New Horizons was also on a mission to explore the Kuiper Belt, be the first mission to do any of that, go so far and do so much. It took almost 9 years, but New Horizons reached Pluto in 2015. Many of us may remember it was an incredible year. Finally, for the first time, Pluto came into view. We had the first high-resolution pictures of it. New Horizons only got within a couple thousand miles from the surface, and Pluto was spectacular. We saw this red coloring. It's indicative of a chemical composition unique to Pluto, and indeed, Kuiper Belt objects. There are these flat regions, especially in this heart-shaped region called Sputnik Planitia. You also have this rugged terrain, mountains and craters. It's so diverse, though. And because there's these smooth regions, it actually leads us to believe that Pluto is geologically active. We weren't really sure of that even 20, 25 years ago. It really wasn't clear that there was more to Pluto than just this ice ball. It really was spectacular, the first view that New Horizons gave us. New Horizons also explored Pluto's moon, Charon, or Charon, whichever you prefer. Pronunciations kind of vary here and there, but we'll stick with Charon. For example, it's more of a gray color, whereas Pluto is more red. So they're not exactly the same composition. They are unique, though, because they're very close to each other, Pluto and its moon. They're only separated by about 12,000 miles. For comparison, the moon is about 250,000 miles from the Earth, our moon, that is. Some astronomers actually refer to Pluto and Charon as a double dwarf planet system. And even in the early 2000s, the Hubble Space Telescope discovered that Pluto had a few more moons: Styx, Nix, Cerberus, and Hydra. So just because it's a dwarf planet does not mean that there's nothing special about it whatsoever. This is a dynamic system. It really, truly is. It's one of the most incredible things that are in the Kuiper Belt. Something else that New Horizons showed us in really good detail was Pluto's atmosphere, this blue, hazy ring around it. It's a very thin atmosphere, and it really only comes about when Pluto gets close enough to the sun that it heats up enough in order for this to form. It's blue because of the way sunlight interacts with the methane, the frozen methane on Pluto itself. This picture here was taken when New Horizons was already on the nighttime side looking back at Pluto, and we could see the atmosphere backlit by the sun. If we come back here to eyes on the solar system, you might notice as you're cruising around Pluto that there's this region where there's nothing. What's going on here? Well, this would have been that nighttime side, the side that New Horizons didn't see. New Horizons did not just hang out around Pluto, it just went by and took pictures and kept on going. That was its mission. Because the hope was, if Pluto was really special and remarkable, maybe that would encourage us to, in the future, have dedicated missions to Pluto where we send something that actually orbits it and stays there and hangs around there and really understands the Pluto system. And why not? It is remarkable. New Horizons did not stop with Pluto, however. It kept going. It went 1 billion miles past Pluto. At the start of 2019, it went around another distant object called Arrokoth. But you can explore that on your own. You can also see here what New Horizons looks like. You double click on it, you can zoom up to it. Do not forget that with this software, if you want more information about whatever it is you clicked on, there's a little letter I at the bottom in your navigation window, and it brings up an information window, and there's also an external link for even more opportunity to explore whatever it is you clicked on. You can do this for the spacecraft or Pluto, for example, whatever object you clicked on. So Pluto, even though right now we say it's a dwarf planet, one of many in our solar system, it's still special. It didn't go anywhere. All that changed was how we view it. We have 8 planets and many dwarf planets, but not the least of which is remarkable Pluto. So have fun exploring on your own our solar system, and indeed the objects that are on the outer fringes of our solar system that we know of so far. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the section below. Until next time, Space Cadets, keep looking up.